Hey everybody, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Durling, Matt Phillips here. We're doing this at Matt's place today. Haven't filmed a new one at Matt's for a while. And this episode is one that actually Matt suggested the idea for a long time ago.
Can't wait.
The time has just kind of finally come around. I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about our favorite box sets. Mm-hmm. Now, box sets are kind of, when I think about when I was first getting into music in the late 80s, nobody that I listened to put out box sets because nobody'd been around that long. Mm-hmm. That all changed with the advent of the 90s, and then there were box sets, which sort of leads into deluxe editions of albums. And Matt's got some really elaborate box sets to show you here, but I brought along 10 of my favorites too, so I thought we'd go back and forth.
I can't wait to see all of these, actually. Some of these I haven't opened in a while.
Yeah, and some of them are just, they're not things you dig out much because they are so elaborate. So, Matt, why don't we get started with your first box set?
Okay, well, just very quickly, I'm showing you these in the order that they came out, which is basically when I bought them. So the first one, and Tim's really going to like this one, is Aerosmith's Box of Fire. Sorry to block you out there.
I don't even have this one, so...
Yeah, now you probably had most of the CDs at this point.
Yeah, this was an example of basically an artist's discography. So Aerosmith, of course, were on CBS or Sony through their earlier career. Then they had their career resurgence on Geffen. And when they signed with Geffen, Sony said, hey, don't forget about this stuff.
Yeah. So I've actually got most of the CDs on my shelf right now, but you see the little...
So the handle to open that is like a burnt match.
Little matchstick. And then inside would contain, what was it, like 13?
It was all of their studio albums from, it was all their albums from their first one through to Rockin' Hard Place Then, Classics Live 2 Gems. And the one thing on here that was an additional one had, I think, 5 songs on it that have never been released on another Aerosmith album. It's got Rockin' Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie Flu from the Less Than Zero soundtrack. It's got the remix, the 91 remix of Sweet Emotion with the really heavy drums.
Yeah,
made it sound like a new song. Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing that, of all the compilations they put out, I wish that they would have put those songs on something else. And the other cool thing about the Box of Fire is that the spines of the CD form the Aerosmith logo, if you've got them all. So if you can see along there.
Just the tip of the wing.
Yeah. But so I don't believe that there's any bonus material on each of the individual discs. They kind of saved it for that bonus disc at the end. Is there a booklet that came with that, or is that
not
just
a booklet at all?
Here's the music,
just the CDs.
Let the music do the time.
Yeah, and I hardly had any of the Aerosmith CDs at the time, so it was perfect.
Which is why it made more sense for Matt to get that one than me, because it is a cool set, though. It's a very cool set. So, all right, so I think I'll talk about one of my favorite ones that came out. Now, Led Zeppelin box sets. The original Led Zeppelin box set came out in 1990, and I actually don't have it. It's the one with the crop circles on the cover, and it was 4 CDs, 4 records, whatever the case may be. The one that I ended up with, and we talked about this in a Led Zeppelin episode, is Remasters. And Remasters is sort of a condensed version of that box set. So you can see it's got the crop circles in different colors. And so this came out on Atlantic in 1992.
Yeah, this is one of the first box sets that I remember. I mean, the Led Zeppelin.
They advertised this on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's got 3 discs. The first 2 discs have music on them, and the third disc is interviews with Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Paul Jones. So that was the cover of the original box set. Yeah. And in the late 90s, Atlantic put out a couple of CDs, Early Days and Latter Days. All those is disc 1 and disc 2 of this Remasters. That's all it is. And this is the booklet to the profiled. And it has got, and I'm sure the DJs did this back in the day, make it sound like you were interviewing Led Zeppelin because you'd have. So Jimmy, tell us about recording the second album. Well, really what we did, it's like that. And there's some station liners on there, but it's a cool little package, a little book. And I reached for this quite a lot, and I just want to listen to a little bit of Zeppelin.
Yeah. Now, their remaster campaign was, 2017?
Which one?
It's
been 2 or 3 years now since all of the albums were finally read. And speaking of that, Jimmy Page says the vaults are empty now.
Yeah, and I mean, instead of getting that kind of box set, now they've been doing a box set for every single album, and it's just like
I don't know when that started. You've got a few examples of that. Yeah, deluxe editions of a particular album. So everything that's in that album pertains to a certain time period.
yeah.
So that's my Led Zeppelin remasters. What have you got next, man?
Well, my next one on my list came out in 1999, and I'm pretty sure that Tim's familiar with this one.
Oh, well, this may be the one that we have in common. The Life and Crimes of Alice Cooper.
Mr. Vincent Fournier.
Yeah, this came out at a perfect time for me because thanks to Matt, I was just getting into Alice, and Columbia House had half price on their box sets. Perfect introduction. I listened to this a lot, so I'll show you what's inside of it.
So it's not very fancy on the inside.
You can see the packaging there. There's Alice inside of like he's in jail, caged up.
The CDs are on my shelf. Have you got any of your CDs?
I'll get the CDs out here because one of these, if I recall correctly, had something funny with them.
I'm trying to remember where this photo of Alice came from. And you've got the pad.
I should know. So that's an early one of him. That's from the Love It to Death. No, that's from the Killer album cover when he's got that makeup.
Cool.
Disc 2, that's probably like Welcome to My Nightmare era.
Let me see the pictures here, but
It's disc 3. And disc 4 is a more recent photo of him. Now, disc 3, for some reason, when I got mine, I think it's disc 3. Nope. Prove me wrong here. Keep looking through there, Matt. One of these discs. Here it is. Disc 2, for some reason, has multiple
printing error.
Yeah.
But
so there's like 5 of these here. But a great collection. It puts together these rare early recordings, soundtrack songs, B-sides. And but the booklet that came with it was really extensive, a really extensive write-up on Alice's career. I've looked through mine a lot. The binding is kind of failing in it, but what I thought was cool is towards the end of it. I could find it here. Yeah, each of his albums were pictured, their chart positions. So, as somebody that was just getting into Alice at the time, it was a great introduction. And then, of course, the back of the booklet's inside of a coffin. So.
Yeah. And tons of stuff on that we had never heard before, too.
Yeah. So that was a good box set, and that may be the only crossover you'll see.
Okay.
So all right.
Yeah. So next up is a box set that I really wanted to buy this locally, but couldn't find a decent price on it. This is one of the very few things that I ordered sort of overseas back in 2001. Just still, buying stuff online was fairly new.
Relatively a new concept.
Yeah. And this was 2001 box set by Kiss. And if you can see,
it's a little mini guitar case.
It's done up like a little guitar case.
Now there was a smaller version of this.
Yeah.
This is kind of a deluxe. Was this the biggest one you could
There's
get? 3
3 different versions. This was kind of the middle tier version. There's one that was, I think, literally
a full-size
guitar case. I mean, come on. But if you want to help me, if you open this one clasp right there, we'll just kind of pop it open here. But so you've got your...
it's just like a guitar case.
Heading some of this stuff.
Yeah,
out.
So this...
Yeah, put this down for a sec.
This probably came on the outside of it, and this outlines everything that's on each of these 5 discs. There's 5 discs. It's pretty generous. There are a few things that were rumored to be on this that didn't end up on it, but have since come out on Gene's box set, namely the Van Halen demos from '77. Yeah, I keep hoping that they'll put a standalone version of that. Of course, that's the inner sleeve of Alive 2, which still remains one of the coolest photos.
A little handwritten note. I'd say that was probably in Gene's handwriting.
I think that's Gene's, yeah.
There. And the CDs themselves weren't terribly fancy, but they had some really cool photos and the sort of monotone color of the band's faces, and then like period.
Yeah, it's an early
photos.
It does lean heavily towards, I think the first 3 discs are all 70s stuff.
Yeah.
And then they
and then a hardback little book here.
Sort of a smaller version of the history book.
Yeah, we can see some of that. Yeah, it's hard for me to kind of...
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world. But yeah, there is a write-up on each individual song. Some songs appear in the forms that you know. A lot of them don't. A lot of them are demo versions, maybe with different lyrics, different titles. There's some very, very early recordings of songs that would end up being Kiss songs.
Mm-hmm. I like the version of God of Thunder.
The original version of God of Thunder. Anybody that's ever bought the Kiss compilation 40 would hear that version too. It's almost disco. Because Paul Stanley wrote it. It's not a Gene Simmons song, even though it's associated with him. So it's a cool box set. I actually don't have that one. I do have a Kiss one to talk about, though. It's sort of a mini box set. Because, at a certain point, they started to streamline them a little bit, so they didn't take up quite so much room. And not only in your shelves at home, but store shelves. So, like he said, you couldn't find a place to go buy them.
Yeah.
So it made sense to so they could put them in the regular. So this came out in 2006. Kiss Alive, 1975 to 2000. This is a box set of the 4 Alive albums. And it's interesting because what is Alive for?
Yeah.
Some might say it's the Symphony album, but more accurately, it's an album that didn't come out when it was originally supposed to. So this came in a plastic slipcase. So it's got all the song titles on here. So it's got Alive from 1975, Alive 2 from 77, the album that got me into Kiss, Alive 3 from 93, and Kiss Alive, the Millennium Concert, was recorded New Year's Eve, 1999, was supposed to come out in 2000 when they were doing their farewell tour. I remember seeing ads for it in magazines. It never came out. It never came out until this box set and then the 2014 vinyl reissue campaign. Mm-hmm. So here's each of the Alive albums. And what makes the Millennium disc very unique is because it is the original 4, Paul, Gene, Ace, and Peter, yet they do Lick It Up, I Love It Loud, and Heaven's on Fire, which is the first time that Paul and Gene sort of acknowledged that era of Kiss. So all kinds of write-ups, and some of the original material that was included with the original albums. For example, the Evolution of Kiss booklet, that came with Alive 2, and that's the back cover of one of the sleeves. The Alive one, that's like the notes that originally appeared with Alive. Really glad that they included Alive 3 because I think it's just such a great recording. Mm-hmm. That's from the inner side of Alive 3. I'm
trying to remember if did they include some of the bonus tracks that weren't on.
Well, I was just going to look. Yes, for instance, Kiss Alive 3 contains a live version of Take It Off, which was originally only on the vinyl and the overseas version of. So, the Millennium Concert, it's good to have. If I'm going to reach for any of these CDs, it is going to be for Alive 3 because I'm just such a big fan. That's my favorite Kiss lineup.
Yeah.
I
can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong
Bruce
with
and Eric.
Bruce and Eric, yeah. So there, that's the Kiss portion. Now,
Very
Matt,
cool.
what have you got?
Next up is probably my most sought after box set.
This is cool.
This one came out in 2002. Again, another thing I had to order online. But for you Iron Maiden fans, this is Eddie's Archive. Says right in back here. I don't know if you can see. It's pretty shiny, but made in England. Now, this has been pirated numerous times. There's very different versions of this. If you were to find one of these unopened in this condition, it would probably go for well over $1,000 online.
Wow.
But, the thing to take note of here is actually just the color of the felt. I believe the blue ones were the more sought after, like the newer versions. And actually, there's a scroll that comes with it. I don't know if you can peel that.
So you can see there's a ring around it with Eddie's head on it.
And
so this just comes off.
Yeah, it's a family tree of the band.
Yeah,
and
very, very careful.
There's a little bit of text at the bottom that sort of identifies it. I actually can't remember all the details, but
there were a lot more lineup changes in Iron Maiden that even before.
Don't worry.
Even before they started recording, they went through, I don't know how many. Steve Harris is the only constant, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'll have to get you to fix it to wind it up a little bit tighter so we get the ring.
And then it came with the 3 CDs. I'll just give those to Tim.
So this is BBC Archives.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of BBC stuff, Reading Festival, Donington, classic live recordings spanning. So there's everything from November 1979 to August 1988.
Mm-hmm. This is Beast over Hammersmith. So that would be what, the Hammersmith Odeon?
Hammersmith Odeon, yeah. Doesn't say when this was recorded. I'm trying to figure out from... I don't see anything newer than like Number of the Beast era on here, so that must have been when this was from. So these were concerts, of course, like diehard Maiden fans would have been looking for forever. Yes. Good versions of it.
And here's Best of the B-Sides.
And if you know anything about Iron Maiden, they recorded tons of B-sides, usually covers. I mean, everything from I've Got the Fire, which is a Montrose song. What else is on here? I think that, Communication Breakdown, Led Zeppelin, another Montrose cover, Space Station number 5, cool. My Generation, Doctor Doctor, which is a UFO song. So, I mean, this is like the holy grail for Maiden fans. And what else is that?
Just one more thing that came with it. You can show that off. This is like a little shot glass.
And at the bottom of it is Eddie. So very cool.
So quite a collectible piece for Iron Maiden fans.
Next one here, another Columbia House half-price one.
Right on.
This originally came out in 1996. It's a Cheap Trick box set. Sex America Cheap Trick. This came out on Sony Legacy. 4-disc set. Very comprehensive. Lots of alternate versions, B-sides, unreleased material. But it has to be said, not even coming close. There's at least another disc's material of soundtrack songs that have never come out because they're on soundtracks and just the rights. So each of the discs has each of the 4 members of the band. And the booklet is actually part of the whole set. Good write-up on the group.
That's cool.
Some interesting memorabilia. Just different things like old ads. I love that kind of stuff. And at the end, it has all of their album covers to that point. It's very concise. I don't know if they've come up with a streamlined version of it, but I mean, this doesn't take up a lot of room. The only thing that makes these things difficult is the height of it. But anyway, this was I was getting into Cheap Trick anyway, and then this came out, and it sort of expanded. Obviously, it's an expanded greatest hit, so I was really happy with that one.
Awesome. Next on my list would be a box set by...
This is very cool.
ZZ Top. This is kind of a funny purchase for me, actually. I bought this on a error on a website. If you remember Future Shop in Canada, they had this incorrectly listed for an insanely super cheap price. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a ridiculously, like...
It's called Chrome Smoke and Barbecue. And it's made to look like an old...
little barbecue shack.
Yeah. Opens. I've never seen anything open like this. It almost looks... It's like cardboard on the top of it.
Yeah, and I think it might even have like a little magnet or something there to hold it. So there's 4 CDs.
Yeah.
There's a booklet. And
the booklet. Now this... It's interesting.
I don't know if you can see. If you...
oh, it's one of these? Okay.
Yeah.
This is old school. That's pretty cool. Now, what's on the other side? Oh, it's the furry guitars from their iconic Eliminator video. So this must have a lot of unreleased stuff.
Yeah. So there's 4 CDs. There's disc 4, disc 3. Just there, buddy. Disc 3, 2, and 1, and Yeah, so this was from 2003.
Yeah, this came out on Warner Brothers. I mean, this even has a radio commercial for the release of their DeGulo album in 1979.
Well,
It's just
yeah.
got little stuff. The first 3 tracks on here are from the Moving Sidewalks, which was Billy Gibbons' pre-ZZ Top band. So this is what anybody would probably want for ZZ Top. It even comes with a
nice
menu, which is
Nice little menu.
track listing.
Sort of stuff.
To me, that's what makes these things really interesting, especially if it's a band. Like ZZ Top's a band, everybody knows ZZ Top, but not everybody knows a lot about them and how these, and the different musical choices they made.
And then I've never actually taken these apart. These are some
Are they like stand-up
little,
cutouts?
cutouts that you can put together, and there's the guys on a bike, and
I don't know why you'd ever do that. You just destroy the value of them. You'd almost have to buy 2 of them.
yeah,
To
yeah.
It was kind of a. This is one of the first streamlined box sets I've ever seen. I think the packaging is
Oh,
cool.
I haven't seen this one.
This is the original Bad Company anthology. This came out in 1999 at the time that the original 4 members reunited for a tour. And so I'll just show you here. Obviously, the front cover of this is made to look like the first Bad Company album where it was just a white background. But if you look in there, each picture is... So altogether, you get the 6 studio albums that this lineup did.
Cool
So you
die
take
cut.
that out, and yeah, it's a cool die-cut cover. 4 new songs on the end of this, all of which are quite good. That's unusual, because that doesn't happen a lot, that you have actually new material on these things. And I hate to say it, but it's even less common that the new material is actually really good. A couple of the songs even made like mainstream rock charts. So, came out on Electro, which it should be Atlantic, but at the time there was this weird crossover. So, I'm just trying to find the somewhere here. There we go. There's a picture of the group, and basically they redid the same pose. And I'm not going to find it right now, but that's all right. It's a write-up on the group. Again, magazine clippings, pins, patches, outlining
Looks like quite a big write-up in there.
There's a huge write-up on here, photos of, that magazine covers all of the lyrics, including all the new songs. And that's, discography of that lineup. And it really doesn't matter to me that it didn't come in a tall, whatever. And you could slim it down to a slim case, but what makes it, why you don't want to do that is because of this. So yeah, that's kind of all the classic Bad Company in one place.
I forgot that you had that one. So next up on my list, from 2008, so this one's 10 years old. This is a proper vinyl kind of box set of. This is Oasis's last album, before they broke up.
That's one album?
Yeah, so let me show you what's inside here. This is quite a heavy package. I mean, I really like some of the details on the box. And
so it's called Dig Out Your Soul.
This is Dig Out Your Soul. This is their last studio album. And I'll dig this out here. I gotta put that right here. So, quite a massive...
heavy.
Yeah. So this would be the CD cover.
Okay. That looks like an old photo album.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very cool. And then inside you've got all the vinyl. I don't know if we can prop this up here. Maybe 2 of us could.
Yeah.
So you've
It
got...
takes 2 of us to hold this up. This thing's
got,
massive.
the vinyl records. And holy cow.
Yeah. We'll try not
So there's vinyl records, there's CDs, and a DVD documentary that came with this.
Wow.
So
elaborate.
yeah,
Just...
obviously had no idea this was going to be Oasis's final album, but it was just a thing that this was right when those deluxe editions of single albums were coming out, and I was like, yeah, I'd really like to have a copy of that. So.
And what makes this really cool is because usually those deluxe editions are for albums that have been out for 30 or 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dark Side of the Moon or like the Led Zeppelin ones, which are, but so that was a brand new album. That's cool. Very cool. So the next one I want to talk about, it's a band I have a complicated relationship with. Very important to me getting into music, but haven't been such a fan of recent works. And that band is Bon Jovi. But in 2004, they put this out.
Recognize this one.
100 million Bon Jovi fans can't be wrong. Now, this cover, this is the 4 band members. They weren't showing Hugh McDonald in gold lame suits. That was a takeoff of a famous Elvis record, which is I think 50,000 Elvis fans can't be wrong. And I think my mom and dad had the actual record. So that's what that's referring to. And at this point, this is actually after it was confirmed that Bon Jovi had sold over 100 million albums worldwide. Now, even though, like I said, my fandom of Bon Jovi has wavered, they'll always be a very important band to me. And this is an awesome box set. 4 CDs and 1 DVD. And this thing is career spanning. I wish that there were a few more songs from their earlier years, but what's interesting about this, there's a lot of work in progress songs, like how one song turned into another, like Open All Night. That's a title that has floated around since the early 90s. They recorded it several times. They finally put a version out, and they didn't even like that version too much. So one of the cool things about this is that finally, for the first time on a Bon Jovi album, first track on disc 3, one of my favorite sort of hidden Bon Jovi songs, Edge of a Broken Heart, was written for the Slippery When Wet album. Never ended up on the album, but did get some radio play. Cool. I remember when I first heard it in summer '87, I thought they had a new album coming out. So, and what I really like is the DVD that comes with it, because it's them in the studio, and it's talking about the songs. And even if they're songs I don't particularly care for, it's interesting that their approach behind each of the songs that they, you know. And one of the cool things that John says is, like, I hope this is a lesson for, you know, young bands. Don't be afraid to take a song idea and beat it to death if you think there's a good song in there. Keep going back to it. So, so what came with this? As usual, a write-up on each of the songs, some memorabilia. But there's also, I can find some here, there are, basically they must have had fans write in their experiences with their music and actually reprinted them along with their names. So they didn't ask me, but that's okay. Now here, this is kind of cool. Now here, this is a ticket stub from them playing a Christmas concert at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey, December 20th, 1992. And that ticket stub, not only is the concert within a couple of months, but the ticket stub itself looks very much like when we saw Bon Jovi in Portland in February of '93, which is still one of my favorite concert experiences.
Months later,
yeah. So there, that's the Bon Jovi box set.
Right on. I'd like to watch that DVD, Tim. Actually.
Yeah, no, we should do that. Yeah.
Okay, another gigantic box set. Pull this out here now.
Wow.
First of all, have a look at this one. This is called Bioshock II, and you're looking at the logo and you're thinking, this is not music, Matt. This is a video game. What's going on here? So Bioshock II, some really fun steampunky kind of first-person shooter games. Awesome games, but let's check out what's inside. So the first Bioshock game was quite popular, so they went all out on this box set. So here's like a butterfly made of hands.
Okay.
Now, the reason I'm showing you this, obviously there has to be some kind of music connection here. I haven't even opened this yet. This is the original Bioshock score, and it came on vinyl. So
very cool.
So this is the score for the video game, and it's called I Am Rapture. Rapture is me. It's something you'd really have to know.
The storyline of the game?
Yeah, but there's a little bit of info by the musical composer. His name's Gary Scheinman.
Okay. So it's not like Mario Kart, then, is what you're saying?
No.
That's more my speed. I love video games.
And then there's all kinds of stuff that came with it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a gigantic book.
Looks to me like it also came on CD.
Yep, and then there is the soundtrack for the game itself came on CD. So the first one we looked at was the score for the original Bioshock, which was very loved. So they put that out on vinyl. And here's the track listing for the CD.
I've heard I have a special edition of the Super Mario games, and it's got a disc of music for the various games. That's the first time I've heard video game music coming out on vinyl.
Mm-hmm. So, quite an elaborate packaging.
There's a lot in it when it has one of these with strings too. So the next one I want to show you is one, it's like many of them, it's one that came out in various forms. I'm not a huge ACDC fan, I do like the band. And I saw this at a reasonable price, so I wanted to pick it up mainly for one disc in particular. This is called Backtracks, and it's got a very cool cover. It looks like an amp, and there actually is a version of this, like a deluxe version of this, that has a working amp. I don't know how many watts it is, but you can actually plug in and play it. But of course, it's got a price to match. And when it came, it had this. It had this on it. So this is a track listing. Now, disc 1 is the main reason I bought this. If you know anything about ACDC, you'll know that the Australian versions of their first few albums were different than their North American counterparts. As a matter of fact, their second Australian album is called TNT, and you can't get, in North America, there is no TNT album. It's basically what you know as High Voltage. So, in putting those out, there's a lot of songs that got left off. So most of these are Bon Scott era, but there are a few B-sides from the Brian Johnson era. The song Big Gun from the Last Action Hero soundtrack, they're all on disc 1 here. So that kind of, for someone that doesn't want to invest in getting all those Australian versions, which are getting more and more expensive, this is a nice, concise way to get all the music is on it. There's live rarities on disc 2. And then disc 3 is actually a DVD. In 2005, this came out, I believe this came out in 2009. But in 2005, they released a 2 DVD set called Family Jewels, which had all of their videos from the beginning, some of the early Australian videos like Jailbreak, all the way up to the Razor's Edge era.
Oh, okay.
Disc 3 of this is Family Jewels Disc 3, which I think is pretty cool. They're not reissuing Family Jewels and making you buy it again. So this has everything from Big Gun through the Ball Breaker, Stiff Upper Lip, even as recent as the Black Ice album. There are a few bonus features on here, like the making of a couple of the videos. And I haven't even gotten to the inside of it yet. So it comes with this slipcase and the early ACDC logo.
Cool, I like it.
And so yeah, and then of course there's a booklet with it that talks about a lot of memorabilia on here, concert posters, like there's a press release announcing Brian Johnson as their new lead vocalist, an old ad for the Highway to Hell album when it first came out. So there's some cool memorabilia on here. That's kind of what makes it for the fans, and I like when these are put together. It seems like they're either put together by fans or with the fans in mind, as opposed to them kind of being put together shoddily and not really worthwhile. So that's not something that you find all the time at a good price, but I was lucky enough to find that. I'm level of ACDC fan, but that edition of Backtracks is good enough for me.
Cool.
Another behemoth box set to show you.
Another one that's going to be hard to open, but from 2011, if you know anything about the Beach Boys, there was sort of that mythic album that was never completed, and that album was Smile. 2011, they did this box set. Now, again, there's
it's like a diorama, like it's 3D.
There's various versions of this one. I got the most deluxe version came with an actual surfboard. Don't have that one. But yeah, let's just check this one out.
So for the average, listener, what's on this album that people would know?
Oh, okay. Well, you've got Good Vibrations.
I think I know that one.
Yeah, vinyl. I'm going to be able to show all this stuff.
So, is the smallest version of that just basically buying that record right there?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
These are cool.
Here's some, these are like reprints of the singles. So you've got, this song is called Heroes and Villains, and it's kind of like a little opera almost.
Okay.
So, definitely one of Brian's deeper songs. Little song called Vegetables,
Wow.
And one of my personal favorites, Surf's Up.
Now, they had an album called Surf's Up.
They did, actually,
But,
yeah.
So there's nothing at all to do with the song Surf's Up.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
actually.
it is?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But that came later.
Yes. Yeah. So eventually,
Wow.
eventually, the record company was like, we need to put some of this stuff out. So this is kind of neat. It looks like looks like photos from the, what'd you call those? Like the master tapes?
reels,
Yeah, master
and,
reels or
yeah.
whatever. So you've got, if I turn them upside right, there's like all the different song names. You can see Good Vibrations, Heroes and Villains. The one that Tim might remember is the Element Suite. Fire. Do you remember me telling you about the Beach Boys went into the studio and Brian Wilson wanted everyone in the studio to wear firemen's hats while they were recording this song.
Yes.
It was very kind of trippy, and
Yeah.
this is, again, he kind of got into his own head, and there was a news story. Something happened that day, and like a building burned down not too far from the studio. You know, completely freaked him out because he was probably, way,
Tripping.
Yeah, way into some stuff. So
Huh.
we've got a nice big booklet.
Yeah, this
Hardbound
thing's
book.
enormous.
Yeah. The photos of the band and just notes about the production of the album.
Whoops, I kicked it.
Yeah, it's so huge.
Yeah. Now, what's this, a big poster?
And
Or?
I think there's posters, and there's almost too much to show here. Again, just some photos of the time period. And I think this is just a gigantic...
Oh, it's a poster of the,
Yeah, I
the
won't
front
bother
cover.
bringing that up, but it's a gigantic poster of...
So is this one of those things where, the album art was finished and all of that?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And then he just decided, no, I don't want to put this out.
Yes, yeah,
So-
he got too far into his own head, and
Yeah.
and the record company, they didn't want to put it out.
And
so-
back then in the 60s, it would have been like, we need an album every 6 months.
Yes,
Come on,
exactly.
guys, you
Yeah,
gotta
there
get-
was a point where I think they had put out 4 albums in 1 year. So.
Crazy. Now we wait. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so the next box set I'm going to talk about, one of my favorite bands, as far as the classic 70s bands, they're sort of the top of the second tier. Personally, I think they're right up with the first tier, and that's Kansas. I've done many an episode on them.
Lovely artwork.
This is their box set. This came out in 1994. Now, the one time I've seen Kansas in concert in 94, earlier that year, I saw them, and Steve Walsh, the singer at the time, their original lead singer, said that they had a box set coming out, so we're going to do a song from it. They had a brand new song called Wheels. So that was the one new thing on here. It's only 2 discs, but they did put it in a 12-inch format. There are demo versions of songs on here. It's not terribly deep, but I'm such a fan that I wanted to pick it up. So
I've never even seen that anywhere other than at your house.
So the booklet, of course, that's there. If there's a mascot for Kansas, it's this John Brown, who was an abolitionist, and he was featured on the state flag, which is the first Kansas album cover. He's also featured on the best of, and a lot of their imagery centers around that. So it's a write-up from all of the members of the band. Now, for me, okay, so this is funny things aside of, like, there's a picture of the group with at the time, that was the original surviving Munchkins from The Wizard of Oz, of course, Kansas and all of that. No pictures of them with Toto here, but, so, and this is interesting because a lot of this has to do with the time period. So this features all of the first album from the original 6-man group, which is what we're talking about here. I would have liked to have seen it go all the way up to the present, but it didn't. So this goes from the first album, 74, to Audio Visions in 1980. Audio Visions is one of my favorite Kansas albums, and at the time had never been released on CD. Oh. So there are 3 songs on here from Audio Visions, and so Loner and Relentless were the songs that, this is the first time that they were on CD. So
very cool.
Yeah, so a good start. They could have done more with it. This is just something that came with this that shows other box sets that were available on CBS and Sony, and I won't give you too much more on this, but each disc just has a smaller version of that on it. So they have another box set, which I will eventually get. Came out in 2004, actually 10 years after this one, called Sail On, which is more extensive and actually has a disc of DVDs with it as well.
Awesome. So 2013, Devin Townsend put out probably his most involved box set so far. This is from his Retinal Circus tour, and this was the most deluxe version of the box set that you could get. It's got a lot of his best songs, and if you can see the titles there. And inside here, we've got, there's a booklet, you've got a lenticular cover, which I'll show you. There's DVDs, Blu-rays, there's a pop-up. There's quite a lot that went into the packaging of this. So
it's good to know people still take the time and do this like with a physical piece of music. Yeah, you're going to need some assistance on this. Open. All right.
So you can see the cover of die-cut from the monkey into Devin's space. And then...
so that's got another one of these.
Yep. So let's see if we can pull that book out.
Okay, so here's the book.
There. So quite a large book. So inside you've got photos from the tour, and here's the...
there's the CDs.
The CDs. I think in the back here would be the... you've got Blu-rays and DVDs and all kinds of photos from the actual tour. Not even sure what that one is, but it's... oh, that's... You can pull that up. That's straight up. This little...
This?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just like...
okay.
There's a
mask. Oh, it's a mask. It's like a Halloween mask.
Yeah,
okay.
So,
all
kinds of stuff
back
in
in here.
With a signed postcard from Devin. Thank you. There's my invoice. Don't need to see that. Here's like a little another postcard. So this is... He hand illustrated that himself. That's like a caricature of Devin with the... I guess the fans call the skullet. His mullet with the skull head.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you call these lithographs, like a sign, basically down in the corner telling you a limited edition.
That was at 1738 of 2000.
Yep.
So this isn't something that you can just go out and get.
Yeah.
For sure. Wow.
Now, I don't know if you can even see this.
Yeah.
This is a pop-up.
Yeah.
So think about the time that they put into this.
So I've got, I remember kids' books like this. Where you just, every page would open up and do a new background scene. That's very elaborate. Another one of my favorite bands, and I've seen this one in stores in a streamlined edition. This is Journey. I've never been sure what to call this thing. Time 3, it's actually time cubed.
Oh, okay.
Because it's 3 CDs. Now this one's got a little bit of damage on there. I don't know how that happened. This is another Columbia House half-price box set. This originally came out in 1992. Journey were not active as a band in 1992, but there was a little bit of radio play at the time because they released a live version of Lights from this, and all it was just from their 81 Captured album. This was useful for me at the time. There is a lot of unreleased stuff on here. First of all, I love Journey's artwork, and I would have loved to have seen this on vinyl. But I don't think it was ever... Well, I know it was never made on vinyl. So, three CDs. And basically, the first 2 are just individual shots of each of those, like Scarab Beetle things. The booklet that came with it is pretty elaborate. I learned things that I didn't know. I've been into this band for a while, but I learned things that I didn't know about them. Some really, really early shots of them.
Now, would this been a box set that you picked up right when it came out, or...?
No, but a couple years later. All of their albums at the time. And in particular, Dream After Dream, which came out in 1980. I picked this up on cassette in 1990, having no idea what it was, had never heard of the album, and it was a strange, mostly instrumental album. It was definitely Journey. It was Steve Perry singing 3 of the songs. The rest was instrumental, and I found out it was actually a soundtrack to a Japanese movie. Oh. So that's when I first found out about that. Of course, at the time, I didn't have that on CD. Lots of magazine covers. This was their VHS, Frontiers and Beyond. That's what that one is there. and just a lot of cool stuff. And for me personally, I thought it was cool. There's an old tour poster of them from 1978, and you can see that one of the opening acts was Yesterday and Today, Y&T, which is a band that's got connections with Journey from the Bay Area, and also management at the time. So there were a lot of cool songs on here. There was a song from the Tron soundtrack, Only Solutions, that I'd never heard before. So that all appeared on this box set. It's not everything that was sort of in the vaults for them, but it was a lot of stuff.
Now the final one I've got to show you is my most recent box set from 2014, and this is from the Winery Dogs.
Yeah, I've got a lesser deluxe version of this.
Special edition called the Dog Treats, and we'll just quickly have a look inside here.
No, I don't have this one. It's Dog Years that I have. Yeah, we have a Winery Dogs episode. Winery Dogs, if you don't know, is Richie Kotz and Billy Sheehan and Mike Portnoy, which I really wish would put out another album.
So a small little booklet.
That's sort of a day-to-day
studio
diary.
Studio diary kind of thing. Here's the actual special edition album. So you've got a couple of CDs and a booklet. So this is the album. And
it's their first album.
Yeah, and then the Unleashed in Japan from 2013. A lot of the same tracks that were.
I have each of those individually, but that's on our Winery Dogs episode.
Yeah, so
great band. Love their sound. I don't know how you describe it, but it's hard rock, but it's got.
Yeah, there's a little bit of blues and funk, and
Richie Kotz is an amazing singer. Really good, really unique guitar playing. Plays with he doesn't play with a pick.
Oh, yeah.
And then, the rhythm section, Billy Sheehan and Mike Portnoy. It's not as busy as you might think it is. It's just really, really good songs.
Here's something I haven't actually opened yet. I've just watched them on YouTube, but it's the videos from that album. Another disc in here is the actual demos. So it's called Winery Pops 2012.
So 2012, that's a year before their first actual album came out.
And then a couple more things to show you. There's a wine stopper, wine topper. I think there's something else in here too. Yeah, a couple more.
There's like
things.
a patch, yeah.
A little patch.
And of course, dog tag.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of little stuff in this package for the Winery Dogs. If you'll have that band, I hope they get back together and do it.
They're like Chickenfoot to me. They're super group, well-known musicians. Made 2 great albums, and then they splintered off. It's like, come back, do more. We want more. So the last one that we're going to talk about, the last one I'm going to show you, is actually the very first box set I ever purchased. Like I said at the beginning, nobody I liked actually put out box sets, but by virtue of the fact that they were a band that sort of had a second wind in the late 80s, and a lot of people our age were introduced to them. Aerosmith ended up with by the time that 1991 rolled around, they were kind of at their peak commercially, I would say. Definitely creatively. And so like I said with the Box of Fire set, when they had success with Geffen, their previous label immediately starts putting out stuff. So they put out the 2 Classics live albums, and they put out Gems, which those are all single album releases. But in 1991, they finally released a box set, and like we mentioned, Sweet Emotion was released as a new single, even though it was already a single in 1975 from Toys in the Attic, with a really funny video. And I remember having the cassette single to that. So the box set came out called Pandora's Box. That's the name of the song from Get Your Wings, but it just made sense to call the box set that.
Yeah, I've always loved this one.
So this is the first box that I ever purchased. I think it's the most money I ever spent on a single musical item. So it's got 3 CDs. Really, really cool early stuff on here. The first track on here is called When I Needed You. It's from the band Chain Reaction, which was Steven Tyler's first recording band, 1966. It sounds like it could have been any 60s band. But when you listen to the vocals, and you really use your imagination, you're like, yeah, that's Steven Tyler. This is the first time that I ever heard of Whitford St. Holmes. I'd heard of the Joe Perry Project, and there is a Joe Perry Project song on here, but I didn't know that Brad Whitford did anything in the time between when he was out of Aerosmith, between like 1980 and 1984. But he did one album with Derek St. Holmes, who was singer for Ted Nugent's band, a self-titled album out, and probably the best song on that album, Sharpshooter, is the one that they put on here. So it took 2 years before it to be released on CD. Or no, maybe 3 years. And I eventually got it. It's not that great. But anyway. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff on here. There's a lot of live stuff on here. There's a cool version at the end of disc 3 of them doing a version of the Beatles' Helter Skelter around 1975. Very, very raw. But the information. Again, this is pre-internet, so if you didn't read about it in a magazine or in some sort of rock encyclopedia, you weren't going to hear about it. And each of the discs look like this. There was actually a single disc, I think it was a sampler they put out called Pandora's Toys, which is basically a best of the box set. But I don't think it was ever officially released. So this is the first time I'd ever read, going through track by track, talking about the songs. Lyrics to some of the songs, and of course at the end all of the Columbia discography, as you can see. I mean, it's missing Done with Mirrors, Permanent Vacation, and Pump, but just a handy little reference if anybody bought this and wanted to find out more. Lots of quotes from people, different people like Jimmy Page, Sebastian Bach, everybody talking about what an influence Aerosmith was. So it's interesting because even though, you got to be around for a long time to have a box set, they still seemed like a younger band. Like I said, they had a second lease on life at that time. And I listened to those 3 discs over and over and over again. And that started me buying box sets. And it was a really novel thing at the time.
Got to get myself a copy of that one. Now, it's been re-released a few times.
I've seen it in I've seen it that looks more like this. Mm-hmm. It's the same material, so yeah.
Right on, Tim. That was really cool.
So, box sets. What are some of your favorite box sets? Comment below. Be interested to see what's out there. And it's probably foreign editions of things that we don't even know about. Thanks for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions.